Hey there, guys, and welcome back to the Travis and Damian podcast, episode 148. You can listen to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and more. Today, we're talking about Metaphor ReFantazio, Joker 2, Dragon Ball Sparking Zero, Agatha All Along, and more. But as usual, we will begin with our recent activities, which includes games, movies, whatever else we've been doing within the past 2 weeks. So I will let Damian go first because he's been the one playing the games. Ironically, I've not caught up on everything, but I will next podcast.
Yeah, so unfortunately, I wanted to beat Epic Mickey before this, but all the other really big games are coming out now, and I was kind of busy over the next last 2 weeks. Fucking hurricane, so that was the whole thing. But luckily I'm here, got power and everything, so I'm all good. So I wanted to prioritize Zelda because that's the bigger game, to be honest. And I did play Epic Mickey before. I'm still gonna beat it, but it's probably gonna be a bit later. But anyway, so Echoes of Wisdom came out. I got it a bit late because shipping was late for it. But I started playing it last week, and the game is very, very good. I don't know if it's my favorite 2D Zelda game. I still think Link Between Worlds is, but this is a great combination of the new style of Zelda games. So Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom, where you can kind of do whatever you want, and the more traditional 2D Zelda gameplay style. Basically, the whole gimmick is the echo system. So Zelda could interact with a bunch of objects and press ZR on that object or enemy, and she's able to make an echo of it. So you press Y, and then you can make a little guy, right? So that obviously has a lot of implications. So you can make like a bed, right? This is the meme item everyone's using. So you can make a bed, and then you can make a bridges of beds, and just make platforms wherever you want. There's also a dedicated jump button Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, which allows for more creative level design, in my opinion. I know some people are kind of that really Zelda shouldn't have a jump button, but I think it adds a lot to the game. From Tears of the Kingdom, Breath of the Wild in this game, I think the jump button should be a standard in any Zelda game now. You could do some really cool elevation stuff now. But anyway, the ecosystem is brilliant. I think being able to create whatever platforms you want, and you could solve puzzles in any way you want to, it gives that same freedom that Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom does. But it still has a nice progression the 2D Zelda games do, because a lot of the best echoes are usually hidden either in side quests, or you have to actually be in that dungeon to get the echo you want. So in the water temple, which is the first 2 temples you do, you get the water block echo, and you use that a lot in that temple specifically. But it's one of the most broken echoes in the game, because you can basically make water platforms everywhere, and it's very good. And then another echo you get in a side quest early on is the flying tile echo. So Zelda could put this little flying tile out, and then she could just jump on it, and then you kind of go a certain distance. So you get a lot of these broken echoes just by doing side quests and doing the main dungeons anyway. So it feels like you're getting proper Zelda items to begin with. So it's not as broken as Tears of the Kingdom and Breath of the Wild, where you really could just you get Ultra Hand, and you get all the other crazy abilities right from the start, right? This game has, I think, a bit more better progression for people that are looking for that, the old Zelda games. The game is not just a spinoff either. Just because you're playing as Zelda, which is super cool, by the way. The game isn't this spinoff. It's not like the Princess Peach game where it's this is just a fun little spinoff. It's whatever. Mm-hmm. This is a full ass Zelda game. It's long. I think I'm 20 hours into the game. I'm almost done. But the game is long. It has a bunch of side quests. The map is pretty huge. It's really dense with a bunch of secrets. Obviously there's 8 different dungeons to do as well. So it's a full ass Zelda game. This isn't some little spin-off or anything, which is great to see. And all the side content has been very fun to explore. Again, it's very similar to Tears of the Kingdom or Breath of the Wild, just mixed with that 2D Zelda flavor, right? And I've just been having a blast doing all the side quests, exploring the open world, and doing the dungeons as well. The reason why I don't think this game is as good as Link Between Worlds is, I felt the same way about Tears of the Kingdom. The dungeons are a bit of a step up from Breath of the Wild. Breath of the Wild's dungeons were pretty shit. The Divine Beast, there was just whatever. Mm-hmm. Tears of the Kingdom and this game's temples are good, but they're nowhere near as good as a traditional Zelda game's dungeon. And it's just kind of hard to balance it with all the shit you could do in these games now. Tears of the Kingdom, you could do crazy shit. You could make a car and just leave or whatever. In this game, you could use a bunch of echoes gotten from previous temples to completely nullify any puzzles in this game, right? You could make your own path. which is very satisfying in its own way. But I do feel like it does kind of break the balance of a lot of temples and in these newer Zelda games. Like, they're still good. Like, they're definitely a step up from Breath of the Wild. Like, I felt like they learned a lot from that game on how to actually do these more free-form dungeons or whatever. But I still think, you know, the more structured dungeons where it's like they know what you have on hand, or like what Link will have, like those dungeons are always just going to be better, right? But they're still fun. Like, I still think the temples in this game are fun. The Deku Scrub Palace I just did was probably the best one in this game so far, because you kind of there's like this you kind of go into rifts, so you go to like these rifts to actually do the temples, and sometimes temples are kind of divided between like the actual dungeon part of the dungeon and then like an outside bit of it, which is really cool. And for that dungeon you had to keep going in and out of the outside world and then the inside, and that was really cool. But a lot of the other temples have been very straightforward and like honestly like pretty like short too, like, you know, they're maybe like 30 minutes for each dungeon, which really isn't that long. But either way, it's like super fun. And of course, I barely even talked about it, but yeah, you play as Zelda in this game, which is cool. It doesn't really like mean much. Like, I do wish like they kind of played more into you being actually Zelda. You know, when they first announced this game, before we knew about the ecosystem, you know, I thought my idea of a Zelda game would be her using like magic and stuff and maybe turning into Sheik or something. That would have been cool. But for this, she just uses the ecosystem, and her ability to turn to Link also feels a little weird because like most of the time you're going to turn into Link anyway to deal with bosses. I'm like, well, I'm not really playing as Zelda now. So that's a little like weird, but hopefully, you know, to keep making actual Zelda games, that would be really cool to see, because, you know, it's kind of cool to get the perspective as playing as her, because, you know, you could be at Hyrule Castle and everyone treats you a bit differently than if you were just Link and stuff. So it's pretty neat, but it doesn't really add too much to the game. Like, if you gave Link the same mechanics, it would just be like a normal Zelda game. So I hope next time to do like another like pure Zelda game to kind of play more into the fact that you are Zelda, right? But it's still really cool. I still like playing as Zelda quite a bit. But yeah, besides that, the game is fucking great. Like, I've been really enjoying it a lot. Basically, I don't think my opinion is going to change too much by the time I finish it, because I'm probably going to finish it up today real quick because I have a bunch of other games I need to do. Mm-hmm. But yeah, the game is fantastic. Probably like my second favorite 2D Zelda game now. I still think Link Between Worlds kind of takes the cake a bit more, but this is a great combination of the new 3D Zelda games and the old 2D Zelda games into like something that's a great middle ground. So yeah, fantastic game. Definitely a top 5 game of this year for me personally. I recommend it. I think you would probably like it a bit too. You know, I know you're not as big of a fan of like the I guess like the newer 3D stuff, I guess, yeah. or just 3D Zelda in general. You love the 2D Zelda stuff, and I think this is a good middle ground between the two. So yeah.
Okay, all right. Do you think they'll ever go back to the traditional 2D Zelda after doing this one?
Honestly, I don't have no idea, because, you know, this is the same team that remade the Link's Awakening remake, and I think they kind of want to go more towards this new era of Zelda now. Like, I don't think we're ever gonna go back. Like, now that this game exists, I don't know if we actually are going to go back to just item-only Zelda anymore, which is probably a big disappointment for a lot of people. They might still do it, but, you know, I think they're going to move forward with this more free-form style of Zelda, either 3D or 2D, right? So, yeah. But either way, I still think it's a great 2D Zelda game. And honestly, the Switch has been having both great 3D versions of their main series and great 2D versions. You know, things like Metroid Dread and Mario Wonder, and now Echoes of Wisdom has been like great like 2D representation of like the big series. So yeah, the Switch just continues to kill it. Even this last year, you know, we still got Mario Party Jamboree and we still got Mario and Luigi as well. So, you know, the Switch is really going out with a bang. So yeah, Echoes of Wisdom is very fucking good. All right, so next I didn't play as much about these next two games. I just want to kind of get like a little taste of it before the podcast. So Dragon Ball Sparking Zero, I did play kind of a bit of it. I played like 4 hours of it, but you know, I bought like the deluxe edition because I want to play it early, so I bought that. And yeah, the game is just straight up Budokai Tenkaichi 4. You know, it's like. So there's like actually a new way to play the game. There's like modern controls and like there's like classic controls and modern controls or whatever. So the classic controls basically feels like Tenkaichi like 3. So like, you know, you hold like R2 to charge up your key or whatever, and you do all the. It basically feels like you never left that game, right? But now they added the new standard controls because there's a lot more like. Mechanics now, like there's like revenge counters and like perception counters or some shit like that. So yeah, now like charging with charging keys with like L2, and it feels very fucking weird. But like a lot of the button presses are a lot more simplified now. So I think if you hold the key button, you could just like use whatever abilities you have on hand, which is nice. So I've been trying to get used to that, but it's kind of crazy how I haven't played Tenkaichi 3 in like fucking 20 years, but it's still ingrained in my brain to like I have to charge key this way. It feels fucking weird if I don't. But either way, the game feels great. Like, obviously still anime arena fighter, so don't expect it to be like too crazy, right? Like, don't expect like Tekken or like Street Fighter levels of complexity, right? It's an arena fighter. It's mostly there to look cool. You're playing as Dragon Ball Z characters. Everything is flashy. It's very fun. And yeah, basically what you think of Tenkaichi 3 is basically that, but like HD, and it looks fucking great, right? So, there's a lot of like fun little character interactions. There's a lot of cool specific like moments that can happen if you have certain characters in your team or whatever. All that stuff is really great. Again, the game just feels really good. It feels exactly what you would think a Tenkaichi 4 would even play like. Obviously, you got all the returning characters from Tenkaichi 3 and, just older Dragon Ball games in general, plus all the new Super characters as well. I haven't really watched too much of Super, so, I'm like, who the fuck are these people? But, like, it's still really cool to have, like, all these characters because they obviously didn't exist when Tenkaichi 3 came out. And there's quite a bit of content as well. I think the story mode is kind of a mixed bag. Like, I think the presentation isn't super great on it. Like, most of the time it's like slideshows, basically, to show cutscenes. Yeah, slideshow cutscenes and stuff. But the what if stuff is pretty cool. So to actually trigger a what if, the game tells you, it's like, oh, this is like a branching story path or whatever. To actually trigger it's really hard. Actually, the game in general is actually really hard. There's been a lot of memes.
Yes. Grade 8.
Like grade 8, yeah, grade 8 Vegeta's like has no fucking chill. But anyway, to trigger the what ifs is also very hard. So it's like, for the first one, it's like, oh, beat Raditz in like 3 minutes or something, which is a lot harder to do because it's like accurate, like lore accurate power levels, I guess. So it's like Raditz is kind of gonna kick your ass at first. You have no Kaioken or anything. You're just like base ass Goku. So it's like kind of hard. But if you do that, you could trigger a what if path and then it plays totally different. So, light spoilers for this first one I did. This is like one of the first ones. So it's not that big of a deal. Basically, like you beat Raditz, you don't get killed by special beam cannon, so Goku's still there and stuff to fight off like Vegeta and Nappa like right away, but Vegeta ends up killing Krillin, so he turns Super Saiyan during the Saiyan saga, basically. So you just beat the shit out of Scouter Vegeta, like right there. so that's pretty cool. So there's some cool what ifs like that, and there's some other ones that like they do a lot of stuff with the Goku Black stuff. Like a lot of people have been big fans of that. So that stuff is cool, and I get why they have to kind of cheap out on the cutscenes because if you're gonna have a shit ton of what if stuff, it's like, you kind of got to like, okay, do we want it to look good or do we want more content for like what if paths, right? So I guess it's not that big of a deal. We all know the story of Dragon Ball anyway, so it's not like it matters if we're getting like a super truncated version of like the main events anyway. Like the what ifs are kind of like the main course of this story mode to begin with. I kind of wish like the presentation was a bit better. That's about all. But there's a bunch of different story modes. There's like Goku's ones, which was the longest one, and then there's like you can play as like Gohan and Trunks, and I think you can even play as like Frieza and like Jiren and shit. Yeah. So that's pretty cool. Again, I haven't played too much of it yet. I was able to beat. I did beat Great Vegeta. Just spam Kamehameha because like you gotta play very defensively because this game doesn't fucking mess around. But there's also like custom battles too, which is really cool. So people could upload their own custom battles and you can like set parameters and win conditions and stuff. So obviously there's a lot of meme ones like, play as Goten and fight like Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta and shit, right? Like there's a lot of stuff like that, a lot of meme ones, but there's some pretty cool ones too. You can make like your own little cutscenes and stuff. It's really cute. I need to play more of it. I don't know how like in depth it's gonna go. Like I don't know if it's gonna get more like complicated and just like be like a meme fight or whatever, but it's a cool option for people to go through. You have like the tournament modes, which has all the presets for like you have like the like Cell games, you have like Tournament of Power, like you have all those rule sets there, so that's really neat. And then you have the online, which I only played a little bit of it, and the connections seem fine at the moment. Like I haven't had like too much lag spikes or anything, but obviously like it's still pretty early, so I'm sure. And I'm wired on my PlayStation, so I've been getting pretty good connections, but just be aware that it might not be that way for everyone else, right? I can't speak for everyone for the online experience. But overall, I think the game has a shit ton of content, obviously a shit ton of characters. There's a bunch of unlockables to get. It's really, honestly, I miss having unlockable characters. Like I really like buying characters and unlocking them. I think that's a lot of fun. Because, I play these fighting games more, it's not even a fight, it's an arena fighter. So yeah, it's meant to be more like just casual fun, right? So and I like that process of unlocking people and stuff. But yeah, it's been a really fun time right now. Like every time I'm playing something else, I'm like, maybe I should play a bit more Dragon Ball. This shit's fun. So yeah, definitely a good time. I think people are going to have, people are playing the shit out of it. Like there's 100K people on Steam, and that was like before it even came out. So the game is selling like crazy. Like people want to play this shit. So, and it's good. It's been getting good reviews. People really like it. So yeah, it's probably like one of the better Dragon Ball games that came out recently. So
Yeah, it's absolutely crazy to see how much success this game is getting, just because obviously me and you and a ton of other people grew up with this series, the Budokai Tenkaichi game. So the fact that it came out a few days early and that there were no problems with it, people have, obviously been enjoying it across every single platform, no issues with the online connection, anything like that. It's like, it's insane for me as like a spectator, watching all these streamers play it, all of these people at work that I talk to, like they're trying to play it as well. I'm like, damn, like this game is really like probably like the biggest game of this year that I feel like everyone could really understand and get behind, not just because it's Dragon Ball, but also just because it's a good game. But yeah, I cannot wait to play for myself, just because seeing people talk about the difficulty level and all that stuff, I think that is a lot of fun because obviously, like you said, everyone's played the story of Dragon Ball, but I think making it hard, but also having these what if scenarios is going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, so yeah, I think they really nailed it. Like, I think they really listened to a lot of like the feedback. They had like a lot of play tests like before the game actually came out. So it's really cool to see them really like make a really good arena fighter. Also because they were the people that made fucking Jump Force. Apparently, I'm like, man, yeah, Jump Force is very bad. So I'm happy to really redeem themselves with this game, and ends up being a really nice tribute to Toriyama as well, and just like the. It's not just like the anniversary of Dragon Ball 2, right? So, yeah, very good game. I've been really enjoying it. And the last game I've been playing, so technically I didn't play the full game yet. It comes out today, but I did play the demo, which was like sort of the prologue of it. It's metaphor is ReFantazio, apparently. I also said Fantasio, or is it? I don't fucking know. Either way, this is that's a weird. I'm gonna call it Metaphor anyway. So Metaphor is the new game by Atlas, so the people that made Persona and SMT. Apparently, right, sold 1 million. I was gonna come on here and say like, oh, the game, is doing really well review wise. Has like a 94 Metacritic and shit. But I was gonna say like, oh, I don't know how well it's gonna sell because it's a new IP. And then Atlas was just like, oh, it sold like 1 million already. I'm like, okay then. So I guess it's gonna sell pretty well as well because I think. The fastest selling games from Atlas is obviously Persona games. So it's really cool to see like this new IP like just sell like amazingly off the bat. And, obviously very deserved because the game is fucking great. So I played the prologue demo, which is, it's a demo, but it's fucking 5 hours. So, this game's going to be long as shit. This game is like 80 or 100 hours, right? So this is going to be like a very busy game for me. But the game is very good. You can really tell it's made by the same team that specifically made Persona 5. Like there's a lot of DNA from that game specifically. Like a lot of little mechanics like the rest stops and the really specific mechanics like the Persona 5 had to this game is very obvious. Even how the game looks is very Persona 5 looking. So it's kind of cool to see, but it does do a lot of things differently. Like, obviously you have no personas in this game or demons like SMT. You have these things called archetypes. And if you ever played like something like a Final Fantasy game or I'm trying to think what else game has a job system. I guess like Bravely Default and stuff. Basically you could like switch your classes around and you're able to customize those classes. So like you could be like a mage, you could level up that mage on one character, and then you could swap to like a knight or whatever. But you could also give them like the abilities from that class to the new class. And it's a very standard job system that Final Fantasy has been doing for years, just with like the sort of like Atlas twist of like adding some more like Persona E mechanics to it, or I guess more SMT stuff to it. And it's great. I mean, I love job systems, and I think the combat system is great. They kind of add more like action RPG type stuff. So when you ambush an enemy, you don't just press like the attack button and then you get like ambush or whatever. You could like do like a little melee hit combo, and like you could do some more stuff in the overworld to actually like damage the enemy before you go into the turn-based combat. So it makes things a bit more dynamic. But once you're actually into turn-based combat, it's still like super fun. Like Atlas just nails turn-based like all the time. It has the same mechanics from SMT. So it's like a press turn combat system. So you hit enemy weaknesses and you get more turns. And then if the enemy does it to you, you lose turns. So that's kind of how that works. And it sounds simple, but there's a lot more shit going on behind the scenes. But the combat system is really fun, just like they always do. Obviously the big thing for this game is set in like a more fantasy setting. Well, it is a fantasy setting as opposed to like the high school setting. So it's really cool to see them stretch their legs in terms of character designs and stuff. Like it's cool to see like, I guess, more aged up characters this time around, since, Persona games usually just have a bunch of teenagers running around. It's kind of cool to have like, more characters of different ages and obviously like actual different fantasy races. So you have like elves and shit. So that's really cool to see as well, because the character designs in this game are really good. So it's really cool to see them kind of stretch their legs and not just stick with the more realistic stuff of Persona, right? So, but yeah, the game is like super good. Obviously, a lot of story stuff I can't really say, but the story seems very interesting at the moment. I'm very excited to learn more about what's actually going on. The combat's a lot of fun. The game looks great, just like, just the art style and stuff. Obviously, like, if you just look at it pure graphically, like, yeah, it looks a little dated, but, obviously graphics don't make the game. And I think art styles really carry a lot of games, if you really know how to make the art style pop and stuff. And obviously this game knows how to do that really well. The menus look fucking amazing, as Atlas always does. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to getting more into this game. Obviously, I played 5 hours of it, but I still have so much more to go through. So I'll probably have a lot more to say about this in the coming podcast. So I'm not going to say too much just yet. But the game is great. I'm very excited to play more of it. And yeah, you're definitely going to see this for at least the next like 3 fucking podcasts. So get ready for that. I'm gonna mix it in with other stuff. I have other games I want to play too. But yeah, so yeah, there you go.
All right, so I finished Epic Mickey Rebrushed. I forgot the game case over there. But anyways, yes, I finished it. If you have never played Epic Mickey before, I can confidently say that this is the best version to play it, just because the controls are better, it visually looks great. But it is $60, so I definitely recommend you try to wait for a price drop of some sort. Try to get it used or something like that for like $30, $40, maybe even $50 at like the highest, because, this is like a 2010 game that we are talking about here. But then again, Purple Lamp did a fantastic, phenomenal job remaking it for modern consoles. And yeah, it ran great on the PlayStation 5. I don't really have any complaints about it. Last time we talked about it, the main thing that was really a concern of mine was the fact that the gameplay is very different from like other 3D platformers, where it has like this mission-based structure, and it's sort of, asking you to do like all of these fetch quests to get to the end of the game. So, if that's up your alley, it may not be, definitely try it, check it out, because I would definitely love to see them do Epic Mickey 2 or even make another Epic Mickey game. I think that would be great. But obviously it's only if this game does well, obviously. So, do what you want. I've also been playing another game, but I cannot talk about that until the end of this month. So you'll see that 2 podcasts from now. Anyways. I have been watching a few movies. Watched Joker 2 in theaters. I saw this at the fan event. So this was way before, I guess, like audience reactions and like general consensus was like, yeah, this is like a dog shit movie. So,
yeah.
Leading up to this fan event, I saw that at one of the festivals that this movie was shown at, it was like mixed. Like some people liked it, some people didn't. I was like, okay, like that's going to be interesting. So then I came in with sort of like a fresh slate, like when I watched Joker 2 or Joker 1 a few weeks back, I was like, okay, yeah, like it's a great movie still. But I think when it came out, it was definitely overhyped for what it is. Because if you watch it today, like it's still a good movie, but I don't think it's like 10 out of 10 the best thing DC has ever produced kind of thing. I think that could go to the Batman. But
right, yeah.
Anyways, Joker 2, watching it, it was definitely a experience, I will say. There are definitely a lot of great moments in it, but for the most part, the movie doesn't really do anything, which is the main thing that people are complaining about, where it's like, yeah, like Arthur doesn't really do much, and then Harley Quinn / Lady Gaga's character, it's like, okay, yeah, like she's great in here. Like she obviously puts on a great performance as Harley Quinn, and the music segments, obviously she kills it. But it's like, what is her character here for? And as they sort of reveal all that stuff, it's like, okay, I guess they're kind of just shoehorning it in, sort of like forcing it in, and it doesn't really make all that much sense. Like they obviously had like a recipe here where it was like, all right, we're going to do Joker 2. We're going to make it a fucking musical because fuck it, why not? And then who are we going to get to play Harley Quinn? Lady Gaga, because she's like probably like the best person to do it. And it's like, okay, yeah, like this looks good. And then when they do it, it's like, okay, yeah, like this is like kind of trash. And it's also because the musical bits, it's like, okay, yeah, like I get the singing part and everything like that, but none of it was memorable. None of it was entertaining. I don't remember a single fucking song from that movie that I'm like, okay, yeah, like that was like a great musical bit. Like other musicals, like I guess like La La Land or whatever, like that's obviously like a very famous one. People will remember the songs for that movie because it's like, okay, yeah, like that was like fantastic, phenomenal, amazing. Joker 2, it's like they're kind of just singing and dancing, and it kind of just got annoying after a while, where it was like, okay, like this is trash. So yeah, definitely wish that they obviously did a better job with it. And obviously, or maybe not so obvious, the ending is something that people were really up in arms about. And I was also maybe not up in arms about, but just confused at like what the fuck they were doing here. Yeah. If you've seen the movie, or if you look at spoilers online, you'll know what I'm talking about. But I was just like, okay, yeah, I guess this is what they're doing. They really didn't have to do that. It could have just been something else, but they kind of just made it that thing. So yeah. I didn't even realize that the director also directed the Hangover movie. So I guess my expectations should have been lower because every single one of those sequels was just fucking hot trash. So I was like, okay, yeah, I guess he just doesn't know how to make sequels, or he just doesn't give a fuck at this point. So yeah, if you're going to see any movie in theaters right now, go see The Wild Robot. The Wild Robot is another movie I saw before Joker 2, I think a week or so before. And this is a phenomenal fucking animation movie. Like, this is by far my favorite animated movie of the year. Transformers 1 is like up there as well. Inside Out 2 is still good, but I feel like The Wild Robot does something really special in terms of the storyline and also just like the animation. It just looks so fucking beautiful. And also just the way that they use like the animals and sort of like the nature environment. I just really like this movie. And if you have a soft spot for like animated movies as well, you will definitely cry during certain segments. I definitely felt like my emotions getting really high during certain bits because I'm like, yeah, like this movie's like really like tugging at the fucking heartstrings here. But yeah, I hope we don't get like a sequel for this or anything like that because I think it's a great sort of like self-contained movie, and I feel like there's not much else you could do with these characters by the end of the adventure. So yeah, just go see this movie, go see it with your friends, family, whoever, because I think that it's just a great fucking time. So yeah, that's pretty much everything I've been doing. But
a lot of good anime movies lately. I actually forgot I did watch Inside Out too because it went on Disney Plus. Yeah, it was good. I liked it. I forgot I mentioned it. I like totally forgot until you just said it. I guess I'll go into it real quick. Yeah, it was a good movie. I just felt it was a little too retready and it felt like kind of like One Again. Still good though. I like the new emotions and stuff, and the anxiety stuff was pretty accurate. But yeah, besides that, I did feel very retready of the first movie. Like this, they're literally doing the same thing except like it's like new emotions and stuff, like the joy and sadness doing a thing. It's like all of them kind of doing a thing. So it was good. I liked it though. Not the worst Pixar sequel I've seen.
Yeah. There's definitely been worse. Yeah. But anyways, let's get into the general news of things. First we got is Ubisoft shares surged 31% as Tencent and Guillemot family reportedly mull buyout. So Guillemot is the owner of Ubisoft, and I guess they're talking with Tencent or something like that about a buyout. So this is very interesting, obviously, because Tencent owns a lot of things, including Riot Games and a couple of other things within
they own Digital Extremes as well, which is the Warframe people. So. Yeah,
so they have a pretty big chunk of the gaming space, especially on the PC side of things. And Ubisoft, they've been making a few hits or misses lately, especially with
misses,
especially with the blunder that is Star Wars Outlaws, and they just delayed Assassin's Creed Shadows to make sure that game does not fail at launch, because if that one fails, I think it might have been doomed for them. So if this actually does happen, I think it'll be a very interesting buyout, just because, like I said, Tencent has a very strong space within the PC gaming world. But I think within console, I think having Ubisoft in there as well, I think that could be a interesting play for them to make.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of sales, like Ubisoft has been doing like very bad. Like the Avatar game didn't really sell much. Like I think that game really came and went, and no one really cared that much. Prince of Persia was a very good game, but again, it didn't really sell too much either. Star Wars Outlaws was underperformed pretty badly as well, and obviously with Assassin's Creed Shadows got delayed. That just like just a sting after sting for Ubisoft. So they've been laying off people. They've been doing a bunch of different stuff to like sort of like alleviate all this stuff. But I think a buyout might just be a thing they will have to take at this point. So, but we'll see. Obviously, it's not always, it's not great for everyone to be bought out. Like I said, it's nice to have these companies to have some independence, but Ubisoft has really been crashing and burning over the last year. Like, it's been kind of insane how many L's have been taking lately. Mm-hmm. So it does seem like something they might consider doing at this point. And Tencent, is not the best ever, but they do let companies kind of do their own thing. I mean, Riot does their stuff, and like I said, with Digital Extremes, with Warframe, they still treat their players very well. Like, every time I play Warframe, I don't feel like I'm getting gypped or whatever. So I guess they do could these companies have a lot more freedom than we admit, I guess. But I guess we'll see once this actually happens. I mean, Ubisoft kind of has to do something, right? Because they've kind of been in the shitter for a little bit. But yeah, so I guess next we could talk about the other Avatar. So Avatar: The Last Airbender is getting a AAA RPG with Saber Interactive and Paramount Game Studios. So, this is something, I'm pretty sure every Avatar fan wants at this point. We really want like this big, epic game with Aang and stuff doing crazy stuff in like a big AAA environment. I feel like Nickelodeon kind of half-ass a lot of Avatar games usually. Like I think the only good one we really have is the one from Platinum, and people really treat that one kind of shit, even though it was like pretty good. The Korra game, like that was good. I don't know why people were so harsh on it. I'm like, it was like an Xbox arcade game. I don't know what you were expecting. It was pretty good for what it was. But either way, we did get an Avatar game recently that was absolute dog shit. So
yes,
hopefully this one could actually be good and something that the series really deserves. Same thing with the Last Ronin game that they're doing with TMNT. TMNT is not on short of having really good video games, but we never really got it on the scale of a AAA game, right? Yeah. And I feel like Avatar kind of needs that to really get the full scale of its world, since it's such a large world. Obviously, I would take any good Avatar game at this point. It doesn't have to be like a big AAA ass game, but if they really want to do it and they believe in the IP, then I think they can make something really good, right? Just don't half-ass it.
Yeah, the Avatar series as a whole has not really had a lot of great video games under their belt. Like you said, that Korra game from Platinum was actually not that bad. I think that, I think when it came out, people were just like, oh, it's like super generic, doesn't really do much. But, for what it is, I think that it was fine. The most recent Avatar game, Quest for Balance, was obviously a middling success just because it was literally pumped out as like kind of shovelware, and not many people really enjoyed that, which is fair. And now that we have this announcement that they're going to get a AAA RPG set within the Avatar world, that can be very exciting. It's going to have all new, never before seen Avatar stuff before. It's actually going to be like a brand new game just set within that world. I think that's going to be very interesting because obviously, they could very easily make a AAA action RPG with Aang, and, you sort of go through books 1 through 3 and sort of do that stuff, or maybe even do the stuff between Avatar and Core or whatever. There's obviously many other possibilities that you could do with that set of characters. But for this game and to just have it be set in a different world, I think is going to be very cool. But also, it's also going to be a way for people to get introduced to Avatar, because now you don't need to know about all of these other characters that are in the series or whatever. So yeah, hopefully that once we actually see this game, it actually looks good. It is delivering that promise of being like a AAA game or whatever. I'm sure that we'll see it within the next 3 years, I hope, at least. So, obviously game development takes time or whatever. So, I'm not going to clamor for a trailer ASAP, but, when we get it, we'll get it.
Yeah, I guess we'll have to wait and see and hope they actually deliver this time.
Next up, we got Red Dead Redemption and Undead Nightmare finally coming to PC later this month on October 29th. So yeah, it's going to have all of the bells and whistles that you would expect from a PC launch. It's going to have 144 frames, ultra wide support, all that good stuff. It is going to be $50 though. So that is going to be very interesting to see if people actually pull the trigger on this one, because obviously Rockstar feels like that their games last the test of time, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but also sort of like how people view games from like a third-party studio. Not to say that, Rockstar Games can't do this, because obviously, this is their game that they could price it however they want. I think a lot of people would be a lot more comfortable paying like maybe even like $40 for it, because, this is like a pretty old game at this point. But granted, they are adding all of the bells and whistles that you would want from a PC game, or PC version, I should say. So.
Yeah, but I guess like the only company that I'm used to like selling their games always at high prices is Nintendo, and still kind of bullshit. Yeah. So like I feel like with GTA 5 goes on sale all the time. It's just like when it launches, you pay like $50 for it, like chump. I'm like, I don't want to. So, obviously Red Dead and Undead Nightmare are very acclaimed games in there. It's DLC and stuff, and people obviously love Red Dead 1 a lot. People have been clamoring for a PC version for fucking ever. It just sucks that they really are just taking advantage of being like, yeah, we could charge $50 for it and people would buy it, and people probably would buy it, right? Mm-hmm. So I thought it was kind of a shitty price when they launched it on consoles, and I think it's still kind of a bad price to launch it here with this re-release, mostly when it doesn't really do much differently. I don't think, like maybe it adds widescreen screen, and all the standard stuff you would expect from a modern remaster, but it doesn't really do much. It might as well just be a port at this point. And charging like that much for it's still kind of annoying. But it's cool for PC players to finally be able to play Red Dead 1. I mean, I've been meaning to play this series for a while. I know people love Red Dead 1, people love Red Dead 2, and it's something on my bucket list for a very long time. So I should probably get to it at this point. But I'm happy PC players can finally get it, because Rockstar has always been kind of treat PC players as like you get stuff way later than the console players. I mean, I imagine GTA 5, hopefully GTA 5 comes out at the same time, but I don't even know. So we're kind of in a different era where PC is a giant major force for gaming. Like if you're not releasing it day of, it's like it feels weird, right? So hopefully Rockstar kind of like gets their shit together in terms of PC releases. But hey, I'm happy that people could finally play Red Dead Redemption 1 on PC. So because I know obviously it's like one of your favorite games ever, right? So.
Yeah, definitely probably my favorite Rockstar game ever. I still have to play Red Dead 2, give that a second chance, because when I played it, I was just not into it. I don't know what it was, but.
All right, so Alien Isolation is getting a sequel. So Sega just announced that they're getting the sequel. The game wasn't really loved when it first came out. Like I know like critics didn't really give it too good reviews. Everyone said it was too long too. Like it's like 20 hours for like a horror survival game, which is a long time, like to be honest. But over time, people have really come to appreciate it. People really love this game now, and it's getting a sequel now. And I really don't like it when people announce sequels like this, when it's just like, oh, here's like a Twitter post. Like I get it was for like the anniversary for the game, I believe, because the game is like 10 years old, 11 years old.
Yes,
I think it came out 10, right? Yeah, it's really old now, which is crazy that 2013 is like, or 2014 was that long ago. But either way, it's getting a sequel. People love this game. Obviously with the success of Alien Romulus, which apparently took a lot of inspiration from this game as well. I think the director said like he really liked Alien Isolation as well. So, it's one of the better games in the series as well. We have been getting like better Alien games recently. Like there was Dark Descent that came out. There was Fireteam Elite that was pretty good. But in terms of like the horror like space, which is weird because Alien is such a horror based franchise, there hasn't been like too many good versions of that. It's all been like colonial marine stuff, right? So it's cool to see like Alien Isolation is going to get a second shot in life. People love this fucking game, like I said. So really cool that they're deciding to do this. I think ways that could improve it is definitely maybe cut down on the playtime a bit. I do think 20 hours for like a survival game like this, it does feel a bit much. Like I feel like the only ones that could kind of get away with having a longer runtime like that is like Resident Evil, but that's more of a like action-based game anyway. Like Resident Evil 4 is pretty long, but all the other Resident Evil games are maybe like 8-ish hours. So, but that's just me. I guess Dead Space is pretty long too. But again, there's more like action and gameplay-y type moments in there, right? You're not just always hiding from the xenomorph the whole time. So, but either way, I'm very excited. I do want to play Alien Isolation. I'm a little bitch with games like this, but like I do like the Alien franchise. So it is something that I probably should do.
Yeah. As someone who is a much more newer fan of the Alien series, when it comes to Alien Isolation, I remember when it came out and, I think the IGN review was definitely like the most notorious one to be negative. And even like the guy on Twitter said, maybe I should review this upcoming sequel or whatever. And obviously he got fucking dunked on by people because it's like, you're being weird, bro. You should not be doing that. But anyways, yeah, I mean, I'm looking at the review scores on Wikipedia, sort of like what people were saying. It was getting pretty much 8s, some 9s, some perfect scores, but there were definitely a few low ones. And I get why, I guess back in 2014, I guess it was different for a game like this to come out, but I feel like if it came out today, I think people would think a little bit differently about it. I think 20 hours is still like, pretty long for a game like that, but I definitely want to play it for myself. My girlfriend's been asking if we could play it, and I'm like, yeah, I just got to buy it, So one of these days, I will definitely dip my shoes into this one because, like you said, this is definitely one of those games that people have been opening up a lot more towards as of late. So I'm excited to dive into it myself, and hopefully, whenever we see the sequel for it, it is just as hype and actually lives up to the expectations that people have.
Yeah, it helps that Romulus was good, so people actually like give a shit about the franchise right now. So,
yeah. Next bit of news we got here is Nintendo announced a sound alarm clock, Alarmo. It just seems like a random ass announcement for them to make, but I think this was just something that they were working behind the scenes with. This only works if you are sleeping alone. So to those people that have a partner, feels bad, man. But hey, if you want a Nintendo alarm clock to wake up to that actually detects your motions and plays Mario, Zelda, Pikmin, Ring Fit Adventure, and Splatoon sounds, and go for it. This is $100 though, and I think it does require Switch Online to like do the updates or whatever, and also a Switch Online membership to buy it directly from the Nintendo store. So that's interesting. I think if you live in the city, in New York City, you can buy it at that store as well, maybe even select GameStops or whatever. But yeah, I mean, this is just a very interesting, weird piece of technology that Nintendo just coming out with in between the Switch and the Switch 2. So yeah, I mean, if you want a $100 Nintendo alarm clock, they have that product for you.
I think if it wasn't $100 and it was like fucking $20, then maybe. But like, it really is just like, you could just do that on your phone. You could do like custom ringtones, I guess. Like, I mean, it's a cute thing, I guess. Like, it kind of looks cute, and like, I like the little graphics, and you see like a fucking inkling. I do love the Splatoon one because you're just getting shot and then you fucking die when you wake up. That's very funny. But yeah, I mean, it's just a fun little thing. I mean, I don't want to hate Nintendo music, because I would hate Nintendo music if it has to wake me up every day. But it's a cute thing. Again, if it wasn't $100, I'd definitely be like, it's pretty like helpless. It's pretty like harmless rather. Like go buy it. But I feel like for $100, that's a lot of money for like a gimmickly alarm clock. But Nintendo likes to do these gimmicky stuff sometimes. Like Labo and Alarmo or whatever. So they definitely like to do like their dumb shit sometimes. It's just fine. To me, it's just more of a gimmicky thing. Like, oh, like the motion sensor, like that's cute, I guess, but it doesn't really do much. Honestly, just be really annoying, to be honest. So, but hey, you can have Alarmo and Pokemon Sleep, and then you have Nintendo with you even when you're in bed. So there you go. Yeah, you have all the Nintendo stuff for sleeping and waking up. So there you go. But yeah, not too much to say, rather than just being like, oh, it's like a new like crazy thing Nintendo is doing, like they like to do with like Labo and stuff. So I was just surprised they were shipping it out so fast. Like, I know people were buying it in the Nintendo store in New York, but I'm surprised people were getting it so fast. I thought it was going to be like maybe a month later, but no, they were rapid to ship this shit out. I was like, yeah, we got Alarmos for days. So, Switch 2, nah, Alarmo, yeah. So, but yeah, so next we got news that made me very mad. So, LittleBigPlanet 3 and all its DLC will leave the PlayStation Store at the end of the month. So this is it. Like, LittleBigPlanet is basically fucking wiped from existence. If you don't buy it right now, which I actually don't even know if I think I have LittleBigPlanet 3 physically. I actually don't know. I might.
It's like a $10 to $15 game, anyways.
Yeah, I might like buy it, like just to have it, but this is really shitty, obviously, for like game preservation and stuff, and also for like a series that used to be really big for Sony, and they're just like wiping it off the face of the planet just because they can't, like, obviously the hackers suck for basically making the online unusable for this game, which really sucks. And then, Sony sucks for not even like helping at all. Like, because they're like, oh, what's the point? Like, no one gives a shit about this series anymore. But I'm like, that's like years and years of levels being lost, like for no fucking reason other than, oh, we gotta save like two, like not even like 0.1% of our profits for this game, right? Because LittleBigPlanet 1 and 2 are down, like they're basically unusable now. All the levels from LittleBigPlanet 1 and 2 and plus the 3 levels are in this game, and it's basically unplayable now. Like, you can't play any creations anymore, which is just like awful, right? Like, that's just like, one, you can't buy it, and two, the game is just gonna be fucking dead. So yeah, obviously this sucks. I'm a big LittleBigPlanet fan. LittleBigPlanet fan. I love the series since the first game. The second one is the one I played the absolute shit out of. I like 3, but 3 was okay. But it still sucks to see the series basically feel like it's being wiped from existence, unless Meteor Molecule is making a LittleBigPlanet 4, because I feel like that's the only thing they could do without them closing down too. But I don't see a lot of like hope for this series at the moment, which is very sad, because I think there's parts of LittleBigPlanet that are like better than things like a Mario Maker and stuff. Like, I think you could do a lot of crazy stuff with it. Like, maybe the platforming isn't like super great like Mario Maker, but you can make some really creative things. And they did this like back in like 2008, and that's same sun. So yeah, it really sucks that LittleBigPlanet is basically just going to be gone forever. This is why game preservation is very important for things like this, because LittleBigPlanet was very ambitious with its online systems, but this is also like when we're starting to see its real downsides, being that we can't really like archive this, right? Like, it's kind of just gone forever. So yeah, either way, it sucks, and it really, I hope Sony kind of does something with the series in the future so we can actually play these levels again. But, I feel like a lot of these levels I played so many hours of back in LittleBigPlanet 2 are just going to be gone forever, and it kind of sucks.
Yeah, it is absolutely crazy that, the fact that Sony just doesn't want to, even try to bring this game back for like one last hurrah or anything like that. The fact that the game itself and all of its DLC are just getting taken down because these hackers are just making the servers just unplayable or whatever. It's like, okay, yeah, like it is what it is. I think that is like obviously worst case scenario and sort of Sony just like cutting off the arm before the rest of it gets infected kind of thing. But yeah, obviously I'm a big physical game guy. So, if you don't have a physical copy of LittleBigPlanet 3, but you have it on your digital account, you can still access it. You can still download it along with all of its DLC. But yeah, I don't even know what the DLC would entail. I think it's just like costumes and whatnot, right?
Yeah, it's usually just costumes. Yeah.
Yeah, so, even like the creative levels, you can't really access that anymore, like I said, because of the hacker situation and everything like that. So, yeah, the end of LittleBigPlanet, it was definitely a era during the PlayStation 3 era where I feel like LittleBigPlanet was like one of the biggest franchises that Sony was sort of championing. And then once we got LittleBigPlanet 3, it was kind of just like, whatever. And then Sackboy Big Adventure came out and then, no one really cared about it or whatever. So
it's a good game. Yes. Sackboy is a good game, right? But yeah, you're right. No one really cared about it.
Yeah, I definitely still have to play it for myself. I have it on PS5, but I just haven't popped it in yet, played it for myself. But yeah, it just sucks that LittleBigPlanet may be the end here. We may never see Sackboy again in his own little world or whatever. So, yeah.
Yeah, I really hope Meteor Molecule like does something with the series at this point since Dreams is also dead. So, and I feel like the only way like they stay afloat is by making like LittleBigPlanet 4, because like what else are they going to do at this point? So, but we'll see what happens. Sony's not been the greatest company recently, so I guess we'll see what they do.
All right, so now we got a rumor that apparently the God of War Greek Saga Remaster Collection is coming out next year, with the announcement either in December to March, somewhere within that window. So this is just some random tweet. I don't know if this guy is necessarily credible. He says in his bio, I know gaming-related things, so maybe he is like an insider kind of deal. But yeah, I mean, I think that this is like a no-brainer for Santa Monica Studios and Sony to really just pump a collection like this out, because you are getting a crap ton of games. You get God of War 1 through 3 along with the PSP games, which is Ghost of Sparta and Chain of Olympus. Yeah. So that's 2 more games there, and then also Ascension. So you get pretty much 6 games within one collection just on PS5 hardware, and I think that would be awesome. I think that the God of War games are still fantastic. Those are still my preferred way of Kratos' adventures, just because they're a lot more simple. The story is definitely a lot more just like straightforward, where he just wants to, kill the gods and get his revenge or whatever. And that's why I love God of War 3, because he just does that. He just goes up the mountain and just kills every single god because he said, fuck you. And I love it. But, just getting a remastered collection of every single game, I think is going to be awesome. Great. Just because, you got a lot of people who got into God of War with this new iteration of Kratos within 2018, but they don't know any of that backstory. When they played the Ragnarok DLC, not to spoil exactly what happens at the end, but, seeing that moment, it's not going to hit as hard as for someone like me, where it was like, oh shit, like I played those games, and seeing him do that sort of scene with it, I was like, okay, yeah, like this is absolute fucking peak. And, if they do anything else with this iteration of Kratos, I'll be for it as long as it fits right. But I think that was like the perfect ending for it. And, I said the same thing with like Uncharted 3 years and years ago, and then Uncharted 4 came out, and that was just a better ending. But, I'm getting, going all over the place here. But yeah, whether or not this collection actually happens, I'm all down for it. But, this is definitely like something that I think is more in line with what people would want from like Sony to do remasters and remakes or whatever.
Yeah, like, we want more of this and less of like Horizon, like, or Until Dawn, like PS4 games. Like, PS4 games should not be game remasters. Like, I'm sorry. Like, that's just, like, you could literally play them on PS5, right? Like, we want games that we literally cannot play on modern consoles at the moment, right? So obviously a lot of PS2 stuff like would be like some of the things I would want. Obviously, like a Sly, Jack, Ratchet, like collections would be like newer collections would be really nice and like nice widescreen or whatever. But having the God of War Greek stuff is like really cool. I personally have never played them fully. I've watched my brother play them like a shit ton as a kid. I think the reason why I never played them was I was just really bad at button mashing. Like whenever you gotta do a quick time event, I was like horrible at it. Like I still remember when I played like Sonic Unleashed, like the fucking ending with Dark Gaia, I just couldn't do. I was like so bad at button mashing. I was like, I'm bad at this. I'm just gonna watch my brother play it. But it'd be cool to actually play them myself now. I have played both of the Norse games and I love them a lot. So it'd be cool to see his more character growth, throughout the older games when he was just an angry man just killing everything. So yeah, hopefully this happens and hopefully they look good as well. Like hopefully they're not too lazy or whatever, but still getting like a shit ton of games in one package is always good to me, man. Like I always love those mega collections. So hopefully Sony does do this instead of remastering like some other PS4 game that they really shouldn't be doing right now. All right, and our last bit of news here is due to like recent laws, I believe, I forgot what country did this, but Steam has to add warnings regarding purchases that it's a license and that customers don't actually own the games, which is, like how digital game licensing works. Like, if obviously this is the reason why Travis is a big, thing for physical releases. When you buy a game digitally, you technically don't own it. You're just buying a license to like play the fucking game, right? So Steam works like that, has worked like that for years. Same thing with like any other like digital platform, except like GOG. Like they make it very obvious, like they make it very apparent if you do own it or not. Like GOG is just like, yes, you own this game. You could download it. It's yours. You could do whatever the fuck you want with it. A lot of other like digital distributors like don't work like that. They did like you own a license and we could take it away from you any time we want. It's technically not your game to begin with. Usually Steam is pretty like in the middle ground with this. Like if a game does get delisted, it's not like they take it away from you or anything. You still have it and you still do whatever with it. So Steam is usually okay with it. Out of like the I could check my Steam account right now. How many years have I had Steam for? I have 14 years. So the 14 years I had Steam, I never had an issue with like, digital rights or whatever. Like I usually am able to play whatever I want that I bought. But still, it's still a great thing that Steam is mentioning now that yes, you do not own these games. Like these are a license and not something you actually own. So, I think, I forget what country made this that you had
California.
to do this.
California.
Oh, it's California. Okay, it was us. Look at that. So yes, good job, California. Yeah, so like I think this is a thing that everyone should be striving for, is being like make it very apparent that you do not own the license. You are just it's a license. You don't own it. So I think that's very good for people that don't know this already to really make informed decisions if you want something physical or digital. I mean, obviously a main example is the Scott Pilgrim game. That went away for a very long time because all the rights expire or whatever. That's why I bought it physically with limited run games, because I'm like, I'm not gonna fucking lose this game again. So I think it's very important. Obviously physical will always be very important. So yeah, obviously we have this discussion a lot, but if you want to weigh in, Mark.
Yeah. Obviously I'm a big physical collector guy, for better or for worse, and with this new California law that they passed literally last month, it is AB 2426, pretty much consumer protection, false advertising, digital goods, avoiding saying the words buy, purchase, sort of have that be like a synonym or sort of like you thinking that you own the game digitally, but that actually is not how it works. And that's how it has been for like years and years and years, where like they could just take that license away and suddenly you don't own that product anymore. That happened with certain digital sort of media things on PlayStation. And I think with Concord recently, if you got a free copy of that for code, they just took that away from you. So yeah, you actually don't own the games. And I think Steam is now doing that, where there is a disclaimer where, yeah, this is a purchase of a digital product that grants a license for the product on Steam. So yeah, you have the license to play it, but you don't necessarily own the game. So yeah, this is just Steam sort of getting ahead of that curve before, California laws are just like, hey, like you can't be doing that or whatever. So yeah, I mean, it makes sense. I think that people who are buying digital stuff today, that's fine, that's fair. I know the convenience is insane, and the fact that gaming studios and gaming companies are also doing like the few days early thing also makes it even more of a incentive for you to buy it digitally. With Dragon Ball Spark Zero, me seeing all of these people play 3 days early, I fucking wanted to do that, but I'm like, what? I got my pre-order, it's coming in. I got it for like a pretty good price as well. So I was like, what? I can wait these 3 days and get it whenever it comes in the the mail, which should be later today. But yeah, I think that law in particular, I think is good. I think it really does protect consumers from, feeling like that they actually own a product, quote unquote, when they actually don't. Because, when it comes to digital goods, especially when you buy it on a service, you're never actually going to ever really own that product. So, if you want to sell it, if you want to give it to a friend or whatever, that is something that you can never do unless you actually just like give them your whole fucking account, which is like a whole other thing. But, that's way too complicated instead of just like giving them the game and then having them do whatever they want with it, right? So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so, good on Steam for doing this. Hopefully more digital distributors follow suit and like make it very apparent that you don't own these games. I mean, I'm guilty for the convenience. Most of my PlayStation games are digital because I'm fucking lazy, but like I know that might bite me in the ass one day. So, I'm fully prepared for that. But, yeah, if you want to own your games, buy physical. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I've been doing since day one. But
yep.
Anyways. Let's talk about Agatha All Along. We're a little bit late on this one, but you know what? Yeah. It is what it is because now we're able to talk about most of these series, especially after the last episode with episode 5, sort of like the big reveal or whatever. But yeah, I mean, I think the first 2 episodes were great. I think it really did set up the show. I think the main thing that me and you had concerns going into it was like, who the fuck cares about it?
Yeah.
But I think the way that they presented the story sort of being like a continuation of WandaVision, even though WandaVision is like years and years old, it really does connect that series and this one pretty well. And I think the introduction of Agatha again and sort of like her world and sort of these characters that we're going to be following throughout this sort of Witch's Road quest, I think is going to be a lot of fun. I obviously the fucking incels are going to come out of the woodworks and be like, oh my God, she's like naked, they're fucking singing and whatnot. I'm like, yeah, this like witchcraft and shit like that. I guess like that's part of like the lore of it or whatever, which is like fine, that's cool. Like I'm not necessarily complaining about it. I think everything that this show does is done pretty well, but I also recognize that this show isn't necessarily for me personally. Like I am still enjoying it, I'm still liking it, but I'm not like in love with it, and it's not nowhere near like one of my favorite MCU things as of late.
Yeah, I mean, me either, but it has surprised. My expectations were like basically 0 when I was gonna watch this because I was just like, who cares? But the more I watch it, I'm like, it's a fun show. Like it's kind of felt like how I felt with She-Hulk, where I'm just like, I'm like, I'll watch it because why not? But I ended up having some fun with it, and I feel the same way. Like I think the show is pretty fun. I'm getting a bit into like the witch trials and shit or whatever. I'm like, this is kind of fun. So yeah, I think like you said, it's a good little continuation from WandaVision, and like I'm interested to see what they're gonna do with Agatha's character, to begin with. But it's also just a nice, witch show. It comes out at a perfect time. It's October. It's a little spooky, right? So really cool from that point of view. But yeah, again, when it was 0 expectations, I actually ended up like kind of liking it, which is nice. So yeah.
Yeah, and also with Aubrey Plaza's character Rios, her being sort of like the villain, quote unquote, but also having like this like romantic thing going on there. I'm like, what the fuck's going on here?
Yeah.
I know. I think it was Joe Locke, the guy who plays the teen. He said that this is gonna be like the gayest MCU thing ever, and I'm like, yeah, this is probably the gayest MCU shit we've ever seen.
I got that from the first episode. I was just like.
Yeah, I'm having a great time with it. I think the final episode where they revealed that his character is actually one of Wanda's childs or something like that. I'm not exactly sure what's going on there, but
yeah, I was gonna ask that. I'm like, is he like one of Wanda's kids? Is that what they're doing? So, which would make sense. Yeah. So, it's good to see how much of an impact she had. And honestly, there's a lot of things from WandaVision I can't remember because it's been like 3 years or something. So I'm like trying to remember stuff like from like the backstory. I was happy they had like one of the recaps. I like totally forgot that she did betray her coven. Like she sucked all their powers away. I'm like, oh yeah, I remember that now because I forgot about that. But yeah, I was just like, who is this teen again? And I'm like, oh, okay, he's like maybe one of Wanda's kids. But again, we don't really know for sure yet. So, but yeah, I do like a lot of the cool situations they've been in. Like I basically enjoyed every trial they've been in. I think all of them have been kind of creative and cool. Like one with the potion things, and then the other one with the song and with the fire and shit. And then this one where it was like the Ouija board and stuff. Like I think the set designs and costume designs have been a lot of fun. I think a big part about WandaVision was the huge wardrobe in that fucking show. So it's kind of cool how they kind of kept that with this series. I think that's really neat. But yeah, right now it's kind of just figuring out like what's really going on, what Agatha is hiding, and all that shit. And I actually do like Agatha's character. I mean, I really liked her character to begin with in WandaVision, but it's kind of cool to see her not be like a real hero. Like she's still kind of a villain because that's kind of what she is. Like she wants power and shit, especially because she doesn't have any left. So it's kind of cool to see all that shit. Kind of come into this episode where she's like, she's more looking out for herself than anyone else.
Yeah, and I just remembered the whole beginning of this show where it was sort of like inside thing where it was like Agatha's like this sort of like crime noir television series that like she's starring in. I was like, okay, yeah, like I could see like the sort of like meta stuff that they're doing here, and that really like hooked me in because I'm like, okay, yeah, like they're actually like trying to be creative or whatever, and also just like. The show just being a lot more, I guess, like adult centric, sort of like horror stuff. They're not shying away from like blood or sort of like the spooky, more scary elements of it. Because, some of the things that be popping up, sort of like the demon and also like the owl within the last episode. I'm like, that shit's like kind of weird, kind of creepy, I definitely not something that you should have like, I guess, like little Timmy watching or whatever. But, if they're like a teenager or whatever, I think they could handle it. It just depends on sort of like what your tolerance is for horror, if you will. I think that this is definitely on like the lower end, but I can definitely see some people getting a little scared and spooked by certain things within the show.
Yeah, like I think just like the set designs are really like I think the only bad looking thing was like sort of green screen shit when they were flying on brooms. That looked a little like
yes, the brooms.
yeah, that looks kind of cheap, but like everything else has been looking really good. Like again, I like a lot of the set design, and I like a lot of the monster designs look really cool. Like you said, like really creepy looking and shit, which I do like a lot. So I think they have been keeping it a bit more small scale. Like the sets are like tiny, so I feel like they're able to fit more stuff into it and just make it feel better. Like it's not like this grand epic scope like some of these other Marvel shows want to do, where it's like they have to spend $1 bajillion in each episode. I mean, they probably do still spend $1 billion on this show, but
it's actually the lowest spending that they spent on a Disney Plus show. So yeah, it's actually kind of weird because it's like the show still looks great, but they're not spending like $1 bajillion on every episode.
I think it's just because the sets are smaller. Like usually it's like a house, right? So, but they're able to make it look good. Same thing with Witch's Road. Like they just probably just use the same set over and over to walk down it, but it looks good. Like it looks really cool. It's all creepy and shit, and I like it. So, and I think the characters are fun as well. They're just like all like the witches doing stuff. A lot more people are dying than I thought they were gonna do. I'm like, God damn, we're like killing people. So like I really didn't expect that. So that's nice to see. Usually Marvel shows aren't like maybe they kill one person off like the show exclusive characters dead. Well, except Secret Invasion, but we're gonna talk about that one. But so it's cool to see them actually have like more, I guess, stakes to this and stuff. So that's really nice to see. But yeah, I honestly I think this show it's a lot better than I thought it was going to be. Like, is it still my favorite thing ever? Probably not. But I think as like just like an Agatha show, like I'm like, what could you do with this? I'm like, okay, they're doing pretty okay with what they got. So I'm interested to see what they do with all with the characters, what's going to happen with the teen. I still don't even know his name. So it's going to be kind of cool. So yeah.
Yeah, we'll definitely talk about this show once it finally ends, just because, there's not really much of a point for us to really talk about in between episodes or whatever, because the show ends at the end of this month. But yeah, so far so good. I think that whatever Marvel wants to do with other shows, spin-offs or whatever, I think that this is definitely like the way to do it. Just sort of just like keep it self-contained, and then if they want to add it into other MCU stuff, they can, but just keep it within its own space, so then they could branch off later on.
I agree.
All right, so is there anything else you'd like to add, good sir?
No, that's everything.
All right, so thank you guys for listening to the Travis and Damian podcast, episode 148. We'll see you guys 2 weeks from now with another episode.
See ya.